at me, kick me down and make me hurt myself. Oh no, you will never forget me. I'm imprinted on your heart, I swear. At times you make me angry, but I know that it could always be worse, be worse, be worse. Baby, now I'm trying to forget you. Baby, I know everything that was about you. No, I'm joking, I'm looking for the bathroom. Round and around, yeah, round and around we go. Picture perfect, but so many flaws that stopped you. I don't wanna ever see you in the same room. I open up and then you hit on all my issues. Round and around we go, we go. Didn't think you would ever believe in me. Now I see your colors, now they're in my dreams. Do I need a doctor? Do I just need sleep? Cause I've been up for almost 3 weeks. Oh, you think you got to me? All you did was use me. Round and round we go, we go. Baby, now I'm trying to forget you. Baby, I know everything that was about you. No, I'm joking, I'm looking for the bathroom. Round and around, yeah, round and around we go. Picture perfect, but so
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
Well, I had to get rid of the good old BMR icon. And my camera seems just a little screwed up, just a tad. There we go. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Good old BMR in the house. It's Friday. Yes, it's time for a couple creepy stories. One not as creepy as the second one. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I still got to figure this camera is looking kind of weird. But anyway, it is what it is. Thanks, everybody, for coming on in. I do appreciate you. I've got a couple stories to do for you guys, some encounter stories I've gotten. The first one, I'm going to warm up everybody with a Bigfoot encounter in Ohio, which in fact is in my second book. And really briefly, for those of you that maybe you don't know that I've written 2 books, I've gotten 2 books. Bigfoot Michiganrob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1 and Book 2. They're found on Amazon. Simply type Bigfoot Michiganrob in your Amazon browser. For those that bought it, thank you so much. Just leave a review if you would, because that does help promote sales. Much like YouTube. With YouTube, you know, you have the thanks and not the thanks, the thumbs up, this, that, and the other in the comments. So yeah, it's all analytics these days, you guys. And yeah, so please do that for me. Don't forget, if you're new, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michiganrob on YouTube. The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube. I'm probably going to take this show right up to the Blondes and the Booze. They come on after this at 8 o'clock. My time. I think there's 7 Central. So check them out. Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World. Please subscribe to her. Texas Front Porch. Donnie Cho Says Stuff. Paranormal Paul. And Truth or Tinfoil. Thanks to everybody for coming on in. And I will say this. As y'all know, I do shows I'm on. For those that might be new, just turn on your alert bells, because this Friday show, I don't put out material on Friday unless I have some good material to tell these stories. So Friday is the scheduled date, but if I have something that's I just don't do a show to do a show. Just to let you guys know that on Friday. However, every Tuesday night with Chris, I'm on at 9 in the East. I'm also on every Thursday afternoon at 1 o'clock in the East. Friday night is this show. And it's Saturday nights, every Saturday night at 11 in the East. I'm on with Krista, Brandy, and Monica for late night, the late show. Bizarre. We talk everything bizarre at night. So check that out as well. Sometimes Tex pops on in. Won't see him this weekend. He's in Alabama. So I think it's just me and Monica as well, because I might get Krista and Brandy, but they're going to be on an investigation. So I'm not so sure if they're going to get a connection. So, it is what it is. Mongolian Monster in the house. Go subscribe to Moggs on YouTube as well. He's got a great show with Stevie B. Hello to Mickey G. Hello to Denise. Hello to Diane Boss. Hello, Val. Hey, Jen from Eddie and Jen. Thanks. Hey, Philip Miller. Just scrolling up really quick. There's a few of you coming in. Not too many. Only about 20, 23 of you. For the Joe Stewart, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. W. Leonard Athos. Hello, W. Leonard. Andres. Hi, Andres. How you doing? Good to see you. Barbara Tracy. Tracy has become a new BMR pirate. Tracy, thank you. You too can become a BMR pirate. Join today, mateys. Join the many, join the few, depending on your point of view. Yeah, you get a picture of me, sporting a bandana next to your name in the chat room for now. So yeah, and also the super chat's open. All these things are a great way to help support what we do around here, what I do around here, and the rest of our great crew. So thank you for that. So I'm not going to waste any more time. So I don't know how long. Hey, Kevin, I don't know how long these two encounters are going to take. So I figured that I would warm up everybody with this Bigfoot encounter that I got from this guy. This is in book 2, actually. So I'll warm me up with that. And then my second one that I'm going to do is kind of creepy, you guys. I don't know if they're gnomes. I don't know if they're little people, but it's kind of bizarre. Now, this story here about this Bigfoot in Ohio, I will tell you that if this happened to any of us, it would scare the daylights out of you. I mean, no harm was done or anything like that, but this encounter this guy sent in was something that just doesn't happen too often, or maybe more often than we all realize, right? Because I've gotten several similar to this. I'm just going to get started. This guy goes on to tell me, he goes by the name of Tony, whether that's his real name or not, who knows, with some of these emails I get, right? He says this encounter that he came across took place in southern Ohio. And he says this is summer of 1996. And Tony goes on that this is all that he wants to disclose about his location, where he lives, understandably, right? He speculated that he and his son experienced what had been coined the Ohio Howl by, as you guys know who Matt Moneymaker is. I guess he coined that phrase supposedly back in 1994 on that show Finding Bigfoot. And he says he could be wrong about but this Tony says what he does know as fact is this. I believe, Rob, that my son and I were paid a visit by Bigfoot. He goes on to explain to me that it crept up behind their tents. At the time, it appeared to be that of a 4-legged animal of some sort. Now, Tony goes on to say that his son Jeremy blurted out to his father, "Dad, something big is in back of our tents." So this dude, Tony, He gets up. I guess they're already in their sleeping bags. He whirls out of his sleeping bag and he looks around, looks to the back of the tent. And he sees what appears to be an animal or something on 4 legs. It was off to the side of the tent, and the moon kind of illuminated the shadows cast by a full moon. Then all of a sudden, it turned squarely to the tent. Now, what he thinks is an animal, everybody. Hi, cowboy. It rose up on 2 legs. Rod, the height, the width was massive, as he goes on to tell me. He says, all I can tell you this creature, whatever this is at the time, appeared to be 4 feet wide. And when it rose up and stood on 2 legs, you couldn't see like the top of it. Okay. The head towered well over the top of the tent. But what he could see now he says that this tent is a 7-foot tall tent, he says. All he says he can see through the fabric of the tent was 2 muscular legs and the lower part of its midsection. Tony says to me, Rob, man, at this point with my son, I'm really petrified. His first thought is like, there's no way that this can be a bear. If it was, it had to be of a freakish sort, right? Tony told his son Jeremy to lie still in the hopes that this thing would walk off, run off, or whatever. So they're lying in their tent, whatever they're doing inside the tent, just waiting for this thing to go away. But both Tony and his son could hear what appeared to be this sniffing around the tent. Again, they can't see ahead. All they can see is like the lower portion, I guess, is abdomen and the legs, you guys. He says these breaths and these sounds were deep and long. He says, whatever this was, it had to have a very expansive set of lungs. He says, Rob, man, the breathing seemed to reverberate throughout the lining of the tent. Him and his son Jeremy could feel it. Tony goes on. He says, my first inclination is that if this animal, this creature, whatever, took in a deep breath, he literally felt the immense enormity of this creature could blow down their tent. He goes, I'm not really making fun of that, Rob, kind of like the story we all heard about the big bad wolf, right? Blowing down the little cabin that Little Red Riding Hood was in. He goes, of course, it wasn't like that, but man, that's the thought that he was thinking at this point. Rob, what in the world could this be? He goes on as he's telling me as I'm reading through this guy's email, and he says, this creature that was just kind of standing there sniffing about, it starts to walk around or the tent. He says, Rob, it kept circling about the outside of the tent, outside of the grounds. He goes, he felt that it was kind of like stalking them. He felt like this creature wanted to get inside and sniff out and investigate what was inside the tent. He says, as this thing is walking about the tent and along now the campgrounds, he says he heard this heavy bipedal thumping sound that simply shook the ground beneath. Tony says that he kept on getting glimpses of this beast or whatever, depending on certain angles in the tent. Hey, Riley, Ron, Jason Finch. Hello, everybody. As it roamed all around, right? Then the walking stopped. And he says, like the shadow cast from the moon, it dissipated. It kind of like went away. Now, he says, Rob, my fear level is still high. In fact, I really got even more scared because what he goes on to explain to me is the footfall picks up as this creature comes back. And he says it was even more violently than before, as there was crashing, there was thudding all around him, his tent and his campsite. Then he hears this loud crash. Okay. Hey, freaky. And Jeremy, the son, and Tony heard like a pounding of some sort. The pounding stopped after this crash or whatever, and then they heard this chilling, blood curdling scream or howl, as he says, from outside of their tents. He says, Rob, the howl rang out so loudly that he and his son's eardrums were deafened. He says, it's hard to explain, Rob. It's kind of like if you're at a concert and you're close to stage and you got the big speakers of the band blasting away. He goes, kind of like that, but then again, not really. But he says the crazy thing is this howl continued on for what seemed to be several minutes. Then he says, and all of a sudden the howls slowly faded away as though whatever this was advancing back into the forest away from their tents. So Tony and his son, they did not leave the tent that night. They were unnerved. And they just kind of, well, he says, first of all, Rob, we didn't fall asleep. At least I don't think either one of us did. But we just stayed in the tent and we wanted to wait for daybreak. Daybreak rolls around. Tony and his son, they exit the tent. So he goes on to tell me, Rob, the crashing and thumping that was heard outside the prior night was surely not it was not their imagination. He said they had a table set up outside of their tent and a few other miscellaneous items, and everything surrounding the tent was all smashed to bits. All sorts of miscellaneous items were strewn about. Again, smashed. And Tony says, Rob, if you remember earlier in this email when I was explaining about that loud crash and thumping and pounding that we had during the night, he says, yeah, I discovered and found out what that was exactly. He says about 30 feet in back of their tent was a huge tree that was literally uprooted and pushed to the ground. He goes on to say that there was human-like footprints, that he says, I seen them. They were very distinct. He saw a set of 5 toes on one of the prints. And he says that it kind of encompassed a lot of the areas outside of the tent and in back of the tent where this thing was standing from the very beginning. Rob says, during this time, Rob, I never even knew anything or thought much about Bigfoot. Sure, I've heard about Bigfoot and other creatures, but I wasn't a believer, this, that, and the other. But he says it couldn't, but it just came to me that maybe this was that Bigfoot creature, right? He says when he looked at these prints with these 5 toes, he says, I kid you not, that the impressions left in the ground, they sank like 2.5 inches deep into the ground. Let me tell you guys something. I mean, from what he's telling me as I'm reading through this email, this whatever this was, Bigfoot, I'm assuming, right? It was huge. It cast this. I mean, you could, the outline of this creature from the tent with the moon casting the shadow. You couldn't even see anything but the legs and the stomach, the abdomen area. And then the next morning, then of course the entire outside of the camp is like destroyed. And then to find these tracks and this tree that's uprooted and pushed over in the ground. And he says, Rob, that was not there at all the prior night. That's what he says again, that he heard it came crashing during the night. He goes, Rob, I'm reluctant to tell you that I didn't really take any pictures. I didn't think to. He says, I can't even tell you that I had a camera on me. I don't remember. This was in 1996, he says. He says, Rob, what I did encounter, though, had to be a Bigfoot. Then he asked me what my thoughts were. And then he goes on to say, thanks for letting me share this. If you decide to put it on your channel, that's cool by me. He was like, appreciate this, blah, 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 what y'all do. And yeah, but that's my experience. I must say, you guys, that is a pretty compelling, right? I mean, most of you that follow, hi, Yvette, how you doing? Hi, Sunny. Check out Sunny's vlog on Facebook. She does a great job. So, hey, listen, most of us that follow the channel or all these channels, I think we believe in Bigfoot. Some of us have seen Bigfoot. Some of us have not, but we're intrigued. We're fascinated. And this story that I just shared is not that unusual, right? It's nothing that's, mind bending to any of us, really, because we've heard similar ones. But what I love most about this is it kind of matches. You guys often hear me talk about data, collecting data, because throughout the years I've been doing this, since my experience in 2018, this is not the first type of encounter I've heard of. And I don't think it's the first time for you guys either. But again, the important thing is the data. So when I tell you guys these and put them on a video or whatever or on a show, it's very important because this matches up and it helps people that are researchers. If they go about compiling the data, that a lot of these things are similar. A lot of them are different, but I think it's important. Not everything, you guys, in the crypto world is scary, right? Not everything ends in tragedy. Sometimes they're uplifting in certain areas. Now, I know everybody listening, I don't care if you saw a Bigfoot or seen one, you would still, I think your heart would be racing if you experienced that at night. So that was that one to warm you all up, because this next encounter that I have to tell you guys, I must tell you, it is creepy. I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if this story I'm going to tell you guys is gnomes, little people, some sort of unknown creature, a puck wedgie, maybe. I just don't know. So that's why I wanted to share this, because it's quite unusual. And I tell you what, it's very creepy. So I'm going to get on with this. I myself have had stories sent to me over the years, or heard stories on other podcasts about how gnomes come to life at night. I did a story on some gnomes that came to life, allegedly, right, in this guy's backyard that lined up to a cemetery. And he thinks that there was some sort of dark magic cast upon them, because he would see all these footprints and all these crazy oddities about his house. And every time he went back to his gnome garden, the gnomes are always out of place. They were never in the position in which he had set them up in his garden. And so when he saw these footprints, right, he just kind of thought that maybe it was his personal gnomes. Now this story is unlike that. This is way different. This is unusual, and I've never heard something like this before. So I'm going to get on with this. Thank you to everybody for coming on in. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new. I do appreciate all of you for stopping on in, taking the time out on your Friday. So I get this email from this guy. This dude's name calls himself Roger. He went on to tell me that he has these strange creatures on his property. He says he lives in the southwestern corner of Indiana. He goes on to say that since the year of 2021, he has seen all of these strange animal, almost human-looking creatures that roam about his property. He goes, Rob, they kind of remind me of those gnomes that you can purchase at a shop, but not really. They're kind of monstrous looking. As he's seen these things, as you'll find out here in a couple minutes. He says the weird thing about this since 2021 is that they only came out once a year, and they always came out in July, early to mid-July. He went on to explain to me that they are no more than like 2 feet tall. He describes them as covered in hair. They have 4 legs. He mentions that the back of their feet are oversized and almost like rabbit's feet. He explains and goes on to say that they hop around versus walk about. The front feet have, oddly enough, human-shaped hands and fingers. Now, as I'm conversing with this guy, because I talked to this guy a little bit, and he says, yeah, this is what he's seen, right? Then he goes on to tell me that some of these little creatures, they have heads that look like a rabbit or a squirrel's head. Then he also goes on to say maybe a combination of the two. But he says the thing that really freaks him out is some have heads, human-like heads, very much like our own. He mentions that the faces and the head are almost garden and gnome-like, but at the same time, the faces, he says, are quite convoluted and almost monstrous looking. Thank you to Midnight Smoker Rob. I had an encounter in Georgia near Bigfoot Museum 3M on 311. Big came out and rode, shoulder went back to the willow, salt and pepper black. Thank you, Midnight, for your super chat. I appreciate your brother, and thank you for sharing that with everybody. I'd like to hear more about that at a later date. Thank you. Send me an email, beyondbmr@gmail.com. So again, thanks again, Ron. So now as he goes on to explain, yeah, they've got heads of rabbits and squirrels, a combination. Then some have human heads, monstrously look like little monsters, very ghastly looking. And then he says to me, Rob, at times, as I said, they start out on all fours, but a lot of them, he says, now these creatures, they will stand upright and they will walk about his property on their huge back feet, as he says, kind of reminds him of rabbit's feet. And he says, hey, Rob, when they walk very awkwardly. Okay, kind of off balance. He says they appear to be off balance. This guy claims that there are multiples of these things, right? And that each of them are very unique and very different. None of them resemble each other. They're all unique. The only commonality, he says, is the feet, the hands, and the hair. Other than that, they're different. So he says, hey, Rob, as this guy Roger continues to tell me this, he says this happened to him between the years of 2021 to 2022. And he says, Rob, to be honest with you, he really did not have any problems with these things. And he only saw them for minutes at a time. But he also says that when these creatures took notice that he had a visual on them, that they either rapidly would scurry away, and in some instance, he says, Rob, they would simply just like vanish into thin air and be gone. They left no tracks. There was no evidence of them ever being on his property. But this is what was going on. He says, albeit though, Rob, it's very creepy, and he really wishes that they would just vanish and go away permanently. But then he says, Rob, I've had no such luck. So that was 2021 to 2022. Now he goes on to tell me, and again, you guys, if you missed part of this, these creatures only appear in July. So we're to move on from 21 and 22 to 2023. And he says, Rob, the experience took a little bit more of a turn. The experience got a little more intense. Roger goes on to explain to me that prior to 2023, when these beings appeared, he saw maybe 4 or 5 of them at a time. And again, only for brief periods. But now, July of 2023 rolls in. He says, Rob, these creatures seem to multiply. He says now there's 8, 9, 10, a dozen of them at a time. And now he goes on to tell me they now would emerge from the woods in the back of his home. He says the other times he just saw them on his property. And he could never pinpoint where they came from. He says they just kind of appeared out of nowhere. He says, now I found a source. I've seen them emerge from the wood line in his yard. He says the thing that was really even more creepy than this experience anyways, when they emerged from the tree line, it was like double. Now, as I made mention, 4 to 6 of them in the prior 2 years. Now there's like almost a dozen of them. And he says he's seen them coming out of his tree line, and they look like they were like a military group, he says. He goes, I can't explain it, but they kind of marched. They marched from the woods in a uniform ensemble. And they marched and proceeded right from the tree line right up to his property. And he goes on to tell me that now at this point in 2023 of July, they're about 20 yards from his house. 20 yards from his house. Then they simply stopped. He says, Rob, they peered in at me in my property and just stared very creepily. He felt not threatened, but he says, man, this is not good, he's saying. Now he says, Rob, unlike the prior 2 years, he can now hear them seem or start to converse and talk about each other. He said it was a low-pitched, eerie like sound. The speech was muffled, and he could not ascertain a language or even understand what they were saying, right? He says it's kind of more like gibberish. He says, now this was like, again, a new experience with these things. He goes, 20, 21, and 22, just a handful of them appeared, disappeared. Now they double. They appear to be militant, and now they're staring him down, looking at him, and now he can hear them speak. So this is a whole new set of circumstances for this guy. He says, in this particular year of July of 2023, he says, Rob, this went on all July long. Now in the email, he fast forwards to this last July of 2024. Roger, Blair, Yvette, hello to everybody for coming on in. I'm not really reading the chat. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Thanks for coming in. Hit that like button, at least when you leave. So now we're going to go back, though, before we get into this July 2024 encounter. He says, Rob, before I get on with that, I'm going to tell you the start of June 23rd. Roger's sister, Tina, moved in with him. Okay, everybody. So this is June 2024. June 23rd. Or June of 2023, excuse me. Or wait, 2024. 2024. This is last summer. So Tina moves in, his sister, both, and she moves in to Roger's home as she had nowhere to go. Roger and Tina's parents had both passed away. And Tina moved in. She was freshly out of a messy divorce, I guess, with her ex-husband. And she had two younger children, okay? Roger's sister, Tina. Goes on to say ages were named Abby, was a girl 4 years old, and a son, Michael, about 6 years old. Abby, she had full custody of the kids, and the home that she lived in with her former husband was sold, and the profits and the proceeds of the marital home was to be split. The father of the children wanted the money and wanted to sell the house. In fact, he told his wife, ex-wife Tina, that she and the kids were now on their own, wanted nothing to do with them. I mean, excuse my language, but that guy sounds like a dick, eh? Two young kids, gets a divorce, whatever the situation about the divorce. I mean, people get divorced every day, but to, just sell the house, told the ex-wife she's on her own, you and the kids, I want my money, and he splits the scene. Terrible. What a bad dude. So this is what happened. So she moves in with her brother. Again, this is just last summer, now July 2024. So Roger obviously is going to take in his sister, but he feels the need now that he has to explain to his sister what's been taking place every July since like 2021. And Roger goes on to tell me in the email, and I asked him several questions. I finally got an answer. He did, because, he reaches out to his neighbors during all this time. During all this time, I was waiting for him to tell me that, who did he go talk to the neighbors? Did he, do any investigative work, right? He does finally tell me that, yeah, he reached out and told the neighbors about what he had been experiencing. And he says, Rob, it was so embarrassing. You know, he goes, I wasn't really friendly with my neighbors, and we kind of live, in between, the properties were set up where we weren't on top of each other. But, for a couple of years of this going on, he figured he could not have been the only one to experience these creatures or whatever you want to call them. So the neighbors, of course, everybody, as you would expect, they kind of looked at him oddly. They were kind of rude to him, and they kind of thought he was, a basket case. So he had no help from the neighbors. Said they pretty much told him to take a hike. So they had no clue. Wanted nothing to do with Raj. So anyway, he goes on to tell Tina about what he's been experiencing. He simply wanted to let her know because of the young kids, right, everybody? He wants to say, look, I've got these weird ass beings on my property. Don't know what they are. I don't like them. They're very creepy. And it seems like every year they get a little more and more aggressive. Now, of course, Tina, she's kind of like, okay, not that she does not believe her brother, you guys, but let's face it, until you experience this, it's kind of hard pill to swallow. I admit to that. I think a lot of you in chat and listening later or whenever could agree with that. So his sister kind of looked at him, kind of in disbelief, and she assures her brother Roger that she did not have a problem. And although she admits that she was kind of intrigued, right? Kind of intrigued about what Roger told her. Everything was settled, and Tina moved in with the kids June 1st of 2024. The entire month of June went off without a hitch. The kids, they're there for, the month of June with Tina, with Roger. Again, everything's great, But of course, this is the month of June, everybody. Because we know what happens in July. We know what happens in July. July arrives. Roger says to me that right after the very first week of July, his clothes dryer breaks down. And I'm like, why are you, telling me this in this email? I don't, your clothes dryer, it took a crap. Okay. Very significant, though, as I read on, right? He says, again, clothes dryer breaks. So Tina, after washing your kids' clothes, again, it was Abby who was 4, and the other one was, I think, Michael, age 6, boy and a girl. Washed their clothes in the washer, which of course worked, but then she took them out to a clothesline that Roger had out back. He had a clothesline. Whether he put it up because of the dryer, I don't know. Apparently he had a clothesline, which is cool because Abby took the kids' clothes out, and it's the summertime. It's July. They hang them to dry. So Roger goes on to tell me that the clothes that his sister hung up for the kids was an assortment of like maybe 10 or 11 shirts and tops. There was also some shorts and some little kids jeans. So I can't imagine these kids at 4 and 6, I said, they're I guess, they're sizable, I guess. So Tina hangs the clothes outside. She hangs out the clothes on this July day, first week in July. It's around noon when she hangs them up. So she goes back into the house. Hey, Virax. Hello to everybody. Hangs the clothes around noon. She goes outside back into the house. Oddly enough, as I'm going through this, about 2 or 3 hours later, Tina went back outside to check on the kids' clothes, right? To her surprise and dismay, every article of the kids' clothing was gone. Gone right off the clothesline, everybody. She looked all around the property and even went to the closest neighbor's house to ask them if they had seen anything, and explained that it appeared someone stole her kids' clothes. Thank you, Virax, our new pirate member. Virax, thanks for joining the family, my man. Or girl, Virax. Kind of hard to determine what you are, but thank you so much for that. Appreciate you. So again, much like, Bettina did this immediately. Unlike Roger, who hemmed and hawed about telling his neighbors about what's been going on the past several years, Tina's pissed off, right? Her kids' clothes are gone. So she goes to the neighbors. She walks to the neighbor's house and asks them, hey, did you guys see anything? Somebody stole my kids' clothes. And all the neighbors, you guys, much like when Roger finally broke down to tell his neighbors about his weird experiences, they brushed her off. They looked at her oddly, like, don't bother us, get away. So, yeah, that's pretty cold stuff, you guys? So anyway, though, they just gave her the odd look, this, that, and the other. So later on in the evening, Roger got home from work, and his sister went on to tell him about the day's event, right? What happened, right? Roger immediately had this bad feeling. While not mentioning what he thought to his sister, he was just out of reluctance. He simply stated that he would take her shopping to replace the kids' clothes. As he explains to me in the email, I took my sister shopping, bought the kids some clothes. Roger and Tina now get back to the home around 6:30 p.m. Okay. At 6:30 p.m., they settled the kids in, and Roger, along with his sister, they went out back, out in the yard, and he starts up a fire, and he starts up his barbecue, to grill up some food. So he goes on to tell me the sun just started to set, and excuse me, the sun just started to set, and Tina asked Roger if he thought that was weird, right? She's, they're sitting down, brother and sister. Who could have done such a thing? Who steals kids' clothes? Told Roger about the neighbors giving her the cold shoulder, telling her to move on, don't bother us, pretty much, right? Then she says Roger really wasn't saying anything. Then Tina, a little more forthright than this Roger guy. Roger, you guys, strikes me as kind of, I don't know, aloof, not very energetic, not very talkative. I mean, he seems like he's just, I don't know. I don't want to say shy, but he just seems odd, right? Much like this neighborhood. So she says, hey, brother, come on, man. Do you think that maybe those creatures that you tell me about are involved in all this? I mean, come on. I don't know. We have no explanation. Who steals kids' clothes? Now, if you guys remember something, Roger was telling me earlier that these creatures were like no more than 2 feet tall. Now, I'm trying to picture a 4 and 6-year-old in their clothing. They're taller than 2 feet, because that does play a little significance in this story as it moves on. Just throwing that out there. Little foreshadowing for y'all. So anyway, after Roger and Tina are kind of talking about the whole situation. He just tells his sister, I just don't know, Tina, at this point. I just don't know. So Tina's kind of, still pissed, right? Kind of, angry at her brother in a way, not because of the clothes, just how he was acting towards her and such, right? And the neighbors. So they both sat back for a few minutes, stopped talking for a little bit, and the sun now was just illuminating the woods in the background, just enough where the property, there was enough light where you could see the green of the grass and the shadows of the forest, the tree line. Then suddenly, again, everybody, this is the same day the clothes got stolen. Same day they bought new clothes, this, that, and the other. Then suddenly, emerging from the wood line, everybody, as Tina and Roger are sitting out in the back with the fire going, making some food, emerging from the tree line, they appeared. These creatures appeared. Roger and Tina are transfixed at this tree line. Those half human, half gnome like creatures advanced. Now, if you guys remember the first time in 2021 and 2, there's 4, 5, half a dozen, 6. In 2023, there was a dozen. They're all like 2 foot high, right? Now we're in 2024. This time, there's an army of over 20, he counts. And they're not 2 foot tall. They were big enough to fill out the kids' clothes because as they advanced closer, marching, military style, like before, marching, he says they were shaped in a V. They were at least another foot taller, big enough where they could wear the kids' clothes. And guess what? More than half of these creatures were wearing the kids' clothes. There was 20 or more, half of them wearing the kids' clothes. That they obviously took off the clothesline earlier in the day around noon. Tina gasps in horror. Make sure the kids are secured in the house. And Roger's just staring at these creatures, these beings, these ghastly, monstrous looking gnome-like figures, sporting the kids' clothes. About a foot taller. Now they're almost like 3 foot tall, right? And the clothes didn't fit perfectly. They were kind of stretched on, ripped. They were all haggard. But you could tell they were the kids' clothes, but now they're all tattered, right? They didn't fit these creatures, but they took them. And and Tina, yeah, knew it was the kids' clothes. And again, these creatures all look differently. Tina comes back from the house, from inside the house, making sure the kids are secure. She goes out with her brother. They both look on in disbelief. Oh my God, Roger. What are these things? Those are the kids' clothes, this, that, and the other. These things get 20 feet from these guys, from their vision, and now they stop. This army of these little people, these gnomes, they stopped. Much like last year or the prior year, 2023, they stop and they do that same thing. And they are staring down the brother and sister, staring at them. Roger says, hey, I feared for my sister. I feared for myself as well, but the sister, and now we have young kids in the house. He goes, I was more terrified than anything in my life. He goes, my sister's face was sheer terror. Because the scariest thing about this is how they stopped and just stared. He says, Rob, they stood there. It seemed like they were there for 5-10 minutes. I would have called a neighbor, he says. I didn't have their phone number. But I didn't want to move either, he says, because I want to keep my eyes on these things. He goes, oh, and by the way, another addition to this entire ordeal, many of these creatures also had long, thick, like sticks in their hands. Not all, several. Several then in the front, like in the point, they came out like on a triangle, as you're saying. And it seems like the leaders all had these long staffs. He says the staffs are longer than their bodies. And they start pounding them up and down into the ground, tapping it. You can't hear anything. It's in the ground. It's in the dirt, tapping, tapping, tapping. Eerie. Can you imagine this, you guys? So, anyways, then they stopped the tapping. Then loud, boisterous, mumbled words you could be heard emanating from these things. Much like before, I was telling you guys how they appear to be communicating, but couldn't make out the verbiage. It was just foreign and kind of just haphazard, right? Now the voices are more booming, they're more thunderous, and they're louder. And it's coming from this congregation of these creatures. Now, unlike before, these creatures, like the last time in 2023, they just kind of disappeared, vanished, right? After they were staring in back the other incident, the prior year. Now they stop. They stop pounding the stick on the ground. The voices that he was hearing stops. But now this band of 20 or so creatures starts sprinting towards the house, sprinting towards Tina and Roger. They're gaining on the house. They're not 10, 20 feet away, he says, and they don't know what to do. They can't move. They did not run. They were paralyzed. They were in shock. They didn't know what to expect. What's going on here? Right before they are very close upon them, much like the other instances, you guys, they simply vanish into the air. They dissipated. They're gone, as he's telling me. However, the voices appeared again. The verbiage appears, and he can hear it clearly in the night's air. It echoed. It could clearly be heard by both Roger and his sister Tina. And he says to me, I made this out, Rob. It simply stated, Rob, he says to me, he says, the voice said, we will be back. Roger goes on to tell me, Rob, for that remaining month of July, I waited for their return. They never returned. He says, my sister stayed with me, if you can believe it, because she really had no place to go for the rest of the summer. Stayed with the kids. But he says, we really did not venture outside the house. He says he was outside the house patrolling his grounds, just waiting for July to end, which was the only time during the year, during the summer, that these creatures showed up. His sister got back on her feet in the fall of upcoming fall, and she eventually did move out with her kids. So he leaves me, though, and I can't wait to get back with this guy, because there's going to be a follow-up with this, because this last incident was July of 2024. Now, if you're all coming in late, you got to watch the replay. But to reiterate, They all showed up between 2021 through 2024 in July and July only. And this band of creatures, they're growing bigger. Seems like they're getting more aggressive and stronger. So he sent me this email that I got. This is like 2 months ago, I think I got. I finally got around to this. He goes, Rob, that was last July, 2024. He goes, I am not looking forward to July of this summer coming up. And he says, I still have your email. And I'm very hopeful, he says to me, that they don't return. He says, but if they do, I'll keep you posted. And then I sent him a follow-up email. I said, look, man, I'll tell your story on my channel, but you definitely got to come on, especially, on the show, on a live show, you guys. Because if something goes down in July 25, July, if something goes down in 2025 this summer of July, this guy's got to come on. Because that was crazy, creepy. I hope you all enjoyed it. I mean, that was just nuts, right? I want to thank y'all for, hey, Barbara, Val, Freaky, Michelle, Sonny. Thanks to everybody for coming in. So leave me a comment. What the hell you guys think of that? I mean, I don't know. Like I titled this Creepy Gnomes or whatever I titled this thing, Creepy Gnome Encounter. It's not the first gnome story. I don't know that I would call them gnomes. I mean, I don't know what else to really call these things. I mean, he described them as human gnomes, but animal looking. Remember, I told you some of them look like the mixture of rabbits and squirrels, and some had the creepy monster human faces. And I don't know that I've ever even seen this or heard this anywhere else before. So yeah, I found it fascinating. I mean, I certainly think you guys enjoyed it. It was well worth sharing to you guys. I mean, I hope that this coming July, he doesn't have another experience. But then again, the creepy part of me kind of hopes he does, as long as nothing happens to him. Because I want to get this guy on. If nothing happens, even to talk about this live to you all. So yeah, I found it I found it cool. I found it really interesting, fascinating. Leave me your thoughts in the comments, you guys, later on, when you have an opportunity, because I'd like to know your thoughts on it. It's very strange to say the least, very strange to say the least. And of course, briefly, I wanted to thank Tracy for becoming a new pirate. Tracy, thank you. Virax became a new pirate. Thanks, Virax. Midnight Smoker, awesome super chat. Thank you. I want to thank each and every single one of you, for coming in today because, again, Fridays, I usually do these on Fridays. I only do them if I got some cool stuff to share. I just don't go live just to go live. If I don't have anything to share, I just don't do a show. So always make sure you keep on your alert bells. The only days I'm guaranteed to be on is Tuesday nights at 9, Thursday afternoons at 1, and Saturday night at 11. And Friday is always open to around 6 o'clock as I compile these stories from various people, or if I share some stories from my book, because I want quality to share with you, not just quantity. So that's my thing. That's what I'm big on. I appreciate y'all. Don't forget, subscribe to my channel, Bigfoot Michiganrob, if you're new. The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, if you're new. And the Blondes and the Booze are going to be on in about 20 minutes. They got a great show, as always, coming on. Go check them out. I will be back Saturday night again with the girls at 11. And for everybody that came in, hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you're new. I appreciate it. Hey, Free Your Mind. Good to see you. Do I have show times or posted on my Facebook? Free Your Mind. I'll give you show times. Tuesday nights. And I will post them. They're posted on the description. All of my show times, you guys, good question. Free. My show times, if you go to the description of this, I know many people don't read the description. Right underneath what I say the stories are about, it says BMR Show times, and you'll see Tuesday at 9, Thursday at 1, Friday at 6:30, and Saturday at 11. So they are there. And turn on your alert bell. Thanks for that. Free your mind. Thanks to everybody. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Also, thanks to the people that are going to watch later. Thanks to the people that don't come and chat but listen. I appreciate you. You're just as valuable as everybody else. And yeah, you guys have a great, fantastic weekend. I'll maybe see you over in the Blondes and Booze a little later in about 20 minutes or so. And of course, join us again Saturday night if you're not doing nothing. 11 o'clock. We always do 11 o'clock show. I am BMR. Thank you so much for your kindness and coming on in. See you around the I don't know. See you around the corner. I don't know. Have a great weekend. Love you.
This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks, with an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.